it is finally happening. The player-owned housing is getting a massive overhaul, from a possible overload cauldron to a portal nexus to being able to see your and your friends' houses next to each other in a neighborhood type setting. 120 construction is going to fundamentally change why construction is trained and utilized, and in this video I'll be going over everything Jagex has talked about so far, what it means, and of course, what would a chef video be if I didn't tell you what I thought of it and gave some hot takes. Leave a like if you're excited, subscribe if you're new, as we're still trying to get to 15k subs by the end of the year, and enough yapping. My name's Chevalric. Let's talk about the player-owned house. To understand why some of these designs are the way they are, I think it's important to understand Jagex their vision first. In the blog, Jagex outlines that they want to keep construction as the housing skill, and how over the years your player-owned house, or POH for short, has been largely ignored, just as much by the players themselves as by Jagex. The only reason why you would even consider going to your player-owned house currently was to use a gilded altar, restore armor on your armor stand, or to do the niche moneymaker like making clockworks, and that is about it. It also didn't help that it was in an instance isolating you from the regular overworld game world. With this update, Jagex is setting out to create a housing system which makes you actually want to go to your house on a repeated basis throughout your adventure and interact with it in a meaningful way. Okay, cool, but what are those meaningful ways? How about an artifact storage that allows you to store all your not needed archaeology artifacts from the bank in a storage system? Doesn't that get you excited? Okay, in all seriousness, it is very much needed regarding quality of life, but I think the potion cauldron will get you far more excited, just like it did for myself. For those around for the Raptor events or boss release in general, you might be aware of the Overload Cauldron. A cauldron offering free overload potions that lasted for an hour. Whilst I think offering this for free is kind of crazy, I do really like the idea of building a cauldron in your own house that you can fill up yourself with dose of overload, then sip out of whenever you want a boost. Maybe even tune that it can be for like 30 minutes, an hour, or however long you want your boost to last for, and then obviously taking out the doses that it requires to give you that boost. Thankfully, Jagex also thinks that this is a cool idea and is looking into adding this. Not just for overloads, but by the sounds of it, for any potion you would want to add to this cauldron. So even if you don't have overloads unlocked, you could add super magic potions to it instead and get the boost for a prolonged amount of time. This would be such a huge addition and a very nice quality of life to not have to constantly keep an eye on your potion effect still being active or to bring them in the first place. Another addition Jagex is wanting to make is the Portal Nexus, inspired by the one in old school RuneScape. This nexus allows you to teleport to all spellbook teleport locations on different spellbooks after adding 1,000 charges of that teleport to the nexus. I really like this design, and once again gives you another reason to have a brief stop between runs to go to your house, apply a boost via the cauldron, and teleporting somewhere with your portal nexus. These are just some examples Jagex gives of functional pieces of furniture, with the caveat that this is still a work in progress regarding the ideas, and that they are not sure if some of them would even be feasible, but at the same time, they did also ask for us to give other cool ideas regarding functional pieces of content, so make sure to give them that on like the Reddit post, in Discord, or wherever you pretty much give them feedback. And of course I have some ideas as well, but let's go through all the changes first and then go to what I think would be cool to add to the game. Because besides functional furniture, we're also getting a lot more customization in general for a player-owned house, which I think is very cool, and they're also making the process of adding the customization in general a lot better and pretty much more intuitive to do. For example, they're going to change how you place furniture down from set positions to be more like Minecraft. You pick a square to put it down and voila! You now have a chair in the corner looking over your king-size bed. On top of that, we are getting things like brand new furniture and new ways to design your house in general by getting rid of these square rooms and allowing you to have more variation room sizes, corridors, etc. and actually designing a house that looks like a house and not just squares added to each other. They're even going to be allowing you to place any furniture in any room, which I can already see getting out of hand, taking some very, very explicit turns along the way. I can actually give you a little bit of a fun insight on this update as well, because I was fortunate enough to be invited to the 25-year creator event, and 120 construction was one of the topics we discussed, and as the true Dutchman that I am, I told them directly what I thought of it, and that is still kind of the same, but this blog really makes me happy because they took some of my feedback to heart. Because I do think that 120 construction is a waste of dev time if they don't actually make it a usable piece of content that also doesn't draw you away from the game for too long. Because it's no secret to anyone that the game world can feel kind of dead at points because everyone is just cluttered at Wars, the Fort, or the Grand Exchange, and all the other places are kind of a ghost town. It also doesn't help that our worlds are not filled with hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of players, but just being cluttered in general is not a good thing. Adding another one of those pieces of content with player-owned houses that could possibly clutter us to another place would make the world feel even more empty than it already is. But you also need to encourage players to actually go to the POH if you want to make an update like this, that give them reasons to interact with it besides, hey, here's a cool piece of furniture that you can add. So it's a tough balance, but I'm glad that Jagex directly recognizes that in their blog and took some of mine and other people's feedback to heart. Another part of that puzzle as well, which I want to give to you, and I also gave to Jagex themselves, is that whilst I think a lot of people want a POH overall, I think in reality what the majority of them want is that exact functionality they're talking about in this blog. Whenever there's a social media post, the old school RuneScape house is always mentioned when talking about POHs. And if you break down why they mention it, it always comes down to having a use for your POH. With the teleport, stat restore, altar, etc. Because in old school RuneScape, barely anyone cares about all the cool customization Jagex adds, and they continuously add it. They do care about the functionality. And I think it will be no different with RuneScape players. And I think it's important to recognize, and it's completely fine to recognize. Because whilst I don't think that we need a POH update, I do think that we need a POH update if that means we're getting useful unlocks. And that is why I think the Portal Nexus, the Potion Cauldron, and to a lesser extent the Arc Storage are very good incentives to go there. But we do need more, and I have a bit of a hot take for that. We might have to just remove some things from the game. And I know people always get scared when I mention that, but hear me out, alright? What if we remove the health restore from standing at a bank and add a pool of rejuvenation, like the one Old School has, to the house, where you interact with it and restore all your health and stats? How about removing the altar from Wars that restores your stats as well, because otherwise there would be no point to a pool. And whilst you're at it, remove the book at Wars that allows you to swap spellbooks and add an occult altar to your house where you can do the swapping instead. I know the spellbook swapping thing is part of the combat achievements and an unlock from that, and I don't think we should take that away, but maybe instead of a random book at Wars, we can just unlock the ability to build the occult altar or get the tools to build it from combat achievements and kind of tie it into there. I think that would be a really cool thing as an unlock instead of a random book in Wars Retreat. Give us buildable adrenaline crystals even, making Wars more of a bank and teleport hub and your house more of the boosting hub instead of the Wars Retreat being the one-stop shop for everything. And yes, I know that people are scared of removing stuff, but I think to make the POH truly work, there needs to be more added to it. And if those things exist elsewhere, like Wars or even the Passion of the Abyss holding all the jewelry teleports instead of a jewelry box, if Jagex wanted to add something like that, then there's still no point in building stuff in your house because you can get it elsewhere. You can possibly argue that you can just add things to the player-owned house that are new and exciting and powerful, but then you also need to consider that there are already a lot of powerful things in the game, and adding new powerful things in the game are just additive to it. So I personally wouldn't mind if Jagex starts looking at some things at Wars Retreat, maybe even the remote totem on Anachronia, and other pieces of content where it could be relevant, ripping it away from there and placing it in your player-owned house and giving you an actual good way to unlock it as well that fits in with where you probably want to unlock it within your progress. But Chef, I don't have the money or levels for it, and I do have the Health Restore unlock now, so I'll just have to live without it? Actually, no, because you can just use one in your friend's house if they have it unlocked. And that goes with everything related to your house, because Jagex is doing something else very big and revolutionary with this update. Let me introduce you to shared communities. Well, that's the working title. Instead of having your own house in a random instance, this feature will allow you to have your house in a more neighborhood-esque setting with your friends around. This is still a work in progress, and Jagex is going to do an entire blog for it later down the line, but this can have huge implications for the functionality and relevancy of the player-owned houses. As it's not clear yet if these houses will be in the overworld or in a separate shared instance, what is clear is that you can access your friends' houses alongside your own. So, going back to the useful unlocks like the Nexus, Potion Cauldron, etc., you can get a couple of friends together where one of you has the Nexus with all the teleports and someone else has the altar where you can swap spellbooks, if that becomes a thing of course. Whilst it could save you money, it will also, probably more importantly, add to the community aspect of this update because you're interacting with other players to get your benefits and don't have to get them yourself. It would be funny if you could allow your friends to sip from your cauldron, for example. Like, imagine if there's a toggle for it that you can allow your friends to do so, and that one friend just sips up all your Elder Overload potion doses you put in it, which would be absolute cinema. Instead of friends, you can also create a hood with your clan. Come to think about it. Player-owned hoods? Anyone? Maybe a good name? No? Anyway, these hoods will also make the achievement furniture Jagex is pitching make a lot more sense. You'll be able to get this type of furniture as a reward from quests or activities, which you could then place in your house to show off your achievements. Imagine if you can add a gold trim to your house because you're a trim completionist. Or having Elvark's head above your door showing off you slayed that dragon in the Dragon Slayer quest. Stuff like this becomes really cool when people actually see it and you don't have to nag them to go to your house. Another example could be you having windows themed around the cathedral in St. Distan because you completed the dig site, with the wooden outline of your house being from the Blisterwood tree because you defeated the vampires, and your furniture made from eagle feathers as a reward from the Eagle's Peak quest. The possibilities are endless, and truthfully, quite exciting, especially as your friends will see your house in your neighborhood because Jagex is actually going to be adding incentives to go there. And if you're wondering what is going to happen with your current POH, well, it's getting the Yeetus Deletus treatment. But not to worry, you'll receive all the things that are built in it as a rebuildable item for your new house, so you just have to place it down somewhere else and redesign the whole gaff. To summarize and give my final opinion, I think they should really double down on adding useful one-stop shop type items of furniture to the POH, and even if that means removing it from other places like wars. Having just a cauldron and a Nexus, which in my opinion are really cool, but they're just not enough, and we really need more incentives than just those two to go there. Like the pool or altar I mentioned earlier, and Jagex thankfully is open to suggestions, so these are my suggestions, and give your suggestions as well in the Discord servers, Reddits, etc. Because whilst the customization features, achievement showcase, and even the social aspects are really cool and exciting, if there still isn't enough of a practical reason to go to the POH, then the customization will be cool for the first couple of weeks, and then no one else will care about it anymore. So get players to go to their house on a consistent basis for a short amount of time, but not keep them there for extended periods of time by adding skilling stations, banks, or other things. So what do you think of this pitch? Leave a like in the video to help me out, subscribe if you're new, and my name's Chevalric. See you guys in my next video.